Gaming isn't fun anymore.
Modern gaming certainly has its issues. Games are plagued by microtransactions, content drip feeds, bugs and unfinished products, and just general predatory practices.
Yep.
However, it's important to realize that the games we look back upon with glee.
And I would say not every game is like this. There are plenty of games that don't engage in any of this like bullshit he's talking about. But, it's mostly like the most popular ones he's talking about.
Also had their own issues, but we just focus on all the good stuff when we decide to think about them. This year, I will turn 29, and I have been playing games for a majority of my life, at least as far back as I can remember. Everything from the Game Boy to the latest and greatest PC games. Throughout all these years, gaming has been that outlet for me, a little escape from the mundaneness of life, and also something to get me through those rough times. Making friends, hitting goals, and just experiencing all types of games throughout the years has been a ride. But as I get older, I find the grind of video games less and less appealing. 14-year-old me could stare at my TV and play Halo 3 or COD 4 for literally an entire weekend, only taking breaks to eat and sleep. But now, after a few hours, the allure of gaming just isn't there. I constantly find.
So for me, it's still there. It's just there in a different way than what it was. I mean, you have to acknowledge that, as you grow older, you're going to be interested in different things. So you have to take that into consideration. Your taste is going to change. The shiny, flashy, sparkly things that made your brain like turn on before aren't necessarily going to make your brain turn on again in the same way.
Find myself asking, were games just better back then, or is this a consequence of getting older? That is a question that I have tried to reflect on this year. Back when I was younger, my responsibilities consisted of simply not failing school and maybe a part-time job.
Don't fail school, get a part-time job, become YouTuber. Figure out if watermelon seeds really grow in my stomach. No.
Today, there's all the responsibilities that come with being an adult. Don't get me wrong, I still love gaming and video games, and that's why I'm still here on a semi-regular basis putting out YouTube videos. But these days, it feels like it's harder to just pump hours into a game and get that pure dopamine that I used to get. It's just not there. Bits and pieces can kind of let you relive those feelings, but many times those long grinds on games just lead to me being unhappy.
Well, I would say before, with whatever game you were playing, whenever you go for like long sessions or whatever, you can just zone out and just enjoy the game. Now, like since you're older, you can't really zone out as far, and you can't detach yourself, kind of the same way like movies are. Like movies, more or less 2 hours, and you can, for 2 hours, you go into a movie, and for about 2 hours you can like just disassociate with everything and just be like, get immersed in the movie and be fine. Gaming is way more interactive than a movie, so it takes not only more effort than just sitting there and watching. You're absorbing stuff with your eyes and your ears. Gaming, you got a little bit of tactile and reaction stuff going on, so that just takes more effort, and you're gonna be immersed more. So I don't know, it's hard to say.
Whether it's at the game itself or simply something else, nostalgia does some crazy things to your mind. Sit there and think back on your experiences gaming as a kid. I can almost guarantee you will look back on them with glee. For me, that peak gaming experience that I always fall back on was grinding Halo 3 matchmaking and custom games. I'd come home from school, throw on Halo 3, and literally play until my mom forced me to get off the game and do homework, or on weekends until I literally fell asleep while playing.
Bro, I was like a C to B student, and even I was like, just come home, do the homework first, and then get on Halo. All right? That's how you do it, In like, when was it? Middle school or something? Maybe before middle school when Halo 3 came out for me. There was like that one period in school where you had like that study hall a period where it's just like you go to your homeroom class and you can do like whatever, get some homework done. Bro, you get the homework done there, so you don't got to worry about that shit at home.
I lived to play Halo 3 at the time. All I wanted to do was get on and grind. During those younger years, not only do you have less responsibilities, allowing you to more freely sink countless hours into the pleasures of gaming, but your mind is also forming.
Hmm.
Experiencing these great moments while younger is always going to have a larger impact on you that later experiences are going to struggle to replicate. It really doesn't matter how good or how bad modern gaming is.
Well, I would say that's because when you're younger, it's easier to make friends because you're around so many more kids because of like school or whatever. Uh, when you're like an adult, it's just harder to make friends because you got being like like I don't know, a mid 30-year old type person that still plays video games isn't it's like crazy, because who are the types of people at your job? A bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds and maybe the occasional like teenager or whatever that you don't want to associate with, but it's like, oh my god, we had like this, we like the same game, but I don't really want to play with you because you're a teenager and this kind of feels weird. And then you got like the 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds that just have the same opinion about video games that they did years ago, and they think the 30-year-old and the teenager is essentially the same person. So, they're just over there in the chair, just, watching football, doing whatever.
Is. Because if we're honest, while many of us older folk would say gaming today sucks, I can almost guarantee the kids that grew up in the modern era of gaming look back on some of the games that have come out more recently as these amazing times in their gaming careers. The peak hype of Fortnite, the launch of Valorant, etc., etc. These are the games that kids today will look back on 10 years from now and
Yeah.
wish they could experience again. The truth is, most people will always look back on their formative years and the experiences they had during them much more fondly than the current times, no matter what the offering is. Oftentimes because it's much easier to remember the fun times you had back then, ignoring the times where you were frustrated or just not having fun. I fall victim
Yeah.
to this on a daily basis when it comes to gaming. I've been chasing the high of Halo 3 for almost a decade now, and
Yeah, that's never coming back. I'm sorry to inform you, sir. That's never coming back. And I was just as much a Halo grinder as like the next person. But your favorite game, you're never gonna get that feeling again because your mind is just different.
really nothing has gotten even close. Was Halo 3 a great game? 100%, it's the GOAT. But I have also set it on a pedestal that has made Halo 3 basically unreachable at this point, regardless of today's offerings. So what do we do to make gaming fun again? That has been the goal now for me this year, and while I definitely still get my enjoyment from gaming, there are many times that I do find myself playing something simply to play it. Well, luckily for us, if you want to go back and experience those old games you fell in love with, you might still be able to. If you were a multiplayer gamer, that might be a little bit harder as sometimes servers shut down, but if you're on PC, there are oftentimes communities that have popped up to kind of preserve those games if they
Yep.
have the tools able to do it. Unfortunately, if the servers are shut down and no one has popped up to preserve the game, you might be out of luck if your favorite game was a multiplayer game, but if your favorite games as a kid were a single player game, well, those still work. Whether it's
Yeah.
literally popping the game into an old console or maybe doing a little finagling to get it to work today on PC. For the most part, we can go back and get our nostalgia fix from these older games. But for many, we want new experiences that are gonna match those experiences we had back then. And
I don't think that'll ever happen, you know? Because much the same way with like movies are now, you know? There's never going to be like another Lord of the Rings trilogy. There's never going to be another original Star Wars trilogy that gave you the same feels as it did when they first came out. It's just not going to happen. Like original Matrix, like that type of movie is not going to come out again and give you the same like awe, you know? I mean, it could, but chances are it's probably not.
I think this is where we have to realize it's just not going to happen. Not just because of the state of games today, but rather nothing will match the experiences that we've built up in our minds. I'm not going to sit here and tell you today's games are better than old games, but games now and back then had their pros and cons. Regardless, constantly chasing those highs that you had in the past will lead you to nothing but feeling unfulfilled. Nothing is going to even match those experiences built up in our heads, and accepting this goes a long way for enjoying modern games for what they are. Instead of trying to beat or match those old experiences, it may just be time to try something slightly new. For me, I've always been a competitive multiplayer guy. Grinding ranked in whatever game that had it would hold my attention for thousands of hours. And while I do still enjoy a good ranked grind here and then, it's also important for me to realize sometimes it's just not fun. Maybe being miserable for hours on end isn't worth the shiny icon when I achieve a rank that I've set out to hit. Gaming has
It
such
never
a
is.
wide variety of amazing games. We just need to take a step back and be more willing to try out some other things. Whether you're into competitive multiplayer games and this means checking out more casual multiplayer games or even single player games, just trying to experience new things can go a long way, as the depth of variety in gaming today is enormous, especially if you're willing to look past just the AAA offerings. It may be hard to live up to the experiences you had as a kid on whatever your favorite or most childhood defining game was, but that's okay. You don't need to. Accepting the fact that gaming today is different than it was can open up your mind to experiencing new or different things in a more receptive way. Not that we shouldn't fight back against predatory practices in modern games, which you can do by simply not playing the games that upset you, but rather than just hitting your head against a wall on a game or a franchise you no longer enjoy, try some other stuff out, or even take a break from gaming.
Yeah, just take a break, man. I mean, for me, I'm just like this dude. Like, I love like competitive like multiplayer FPSs, but lately there's been a couple of them where I'm just like so done and over with. But I still like that idea of like growing and getting better. So what have I done? I have gone and went to go aim train, you know?
It's always going to be there when you have time or really want to game, but it doesn't always have to be your focus. Gaming is meant to be a fun escape from our everyday reality.
Yes and no. Initially, that's what it was, but you know, especially with like competitive games, there's always been that money incentive to, you know, get good, be betterest, get on a team, do good with the team, you know. There's always that struggle to like make my game an esport game or whatever. But, you know, I would agree with him that gaming was initially, you know, set out to just be like a fun little whatever piece of entertainment, you know? Much the same way like sports, I would imagine, where like stick and ball sports like baseball, football, or basketball, hockey, all sports, this is all just entertainment, you know? That's all it is.
Not another mundane thing that we do just to fill the time in the day. You might even find gaming more fun as you spend more time doing other things. Even if you don't take a step back from gaming, playing some awesome single player games or maybe a more casual multiplayer game may give you more enjoyment when you hop back onto grind COD ranked or whatever your game of choice is these days.
Oh, God help you if you're grinding COD ranked. Oh my God.
That's going to be the video. Thanks to my one and only Patreon supporter Scam these days. Check out the Patreon if you want to support the channel. And with that said, I will see you all next time.
I like this video. It was short, sweet, and to the point. I 100% agree. And it highlights what I've been thinking for a while, which is like, you know, you can still enjoy games just in a different way than you used to before. I remember before, like when I was younger, I would be more hesitant to give new games a shot. But now that I'm just older and I kind of understand like kind of how games operate, I'm more willing to give new games like a shot and, you know, maybe don't grind them so much, like grind them into the dirt. So that's just one thing I would suggest. Like give new games a shot. You know, like he said, but you know, you're going to do whatever you're going to do essentially. Just enjoy yourself is more or less what I'm trying to say. Let me see. Is there anything? I think the biggest influences of gaming Uh, I think the biggest influence of gaming fun is playing with friends. Yeah, that's a huge one. I mean, for me, like Halo 1 LAN parties was like the big thing. I would ride down to my friend's house and get my Xbox in my backpack and get on my bike and just drive to his house because his family, like not only the brothers and the sisters played Halo, the parents and the aunts and uncles played Halo too. So that was always a big thing. When you're younger, it's always easier to play with friends because everyone's on the same or similar schedules. Yeah, you know, just being around people and having wanting to do the same thing. This isn't like exclusive to video games either. This is, this can be said about like any hobby or sport, really. Uh, when you grow up, everyone has differing responsibilities. Yeah, everyone's all grown up and busy adulting, and don't bother me. I'm just doing my thing. Gaming is always better with friends. True. Yeah. Um. Yeah, man. Good video. I liked it. I want to see more. So that's about it. All right. See ya.